Are we okay? We're recording. Hey
We
guys.
are.
Hey guys,
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
great to see everybody.
It's great to see you too. Wow, we are in our third discipline of conscious choice. But before we hop into that, let's go around and introduce ourselves so everybody knows who's on the call. Let's keep it quick and brief and share more information. So I'm Nancy Coble. I'm a life and leadership coach, Dare to Lead facilitator. And the four of us are part of an amazing mastermind group, all coaches, and I'm going to pass it off to Karen.
Which Karen?
Which Karen?
Oh, is that the organic nature of us? All right, cool.
It's whoever spoke first.
All right, I guess that's me. So I am Karen Preston. I am also a coach and really kind of self-proclaimed values expert. I am excited to be here to talk about conscious choice today, as it's incredibly pertinent in my life. But before we get into that, I want to hear from the other Karen.
Hey, thanks, KP. Hey, I'm Karen Bonet. I would like to share that I am a health and performance coach. I work with internal energy. I'm a core dynamic specialist, also certified in the happiness studies, which is just a very powerful way for us to shift to a happier level of being. I'd like to share my website. Maybe you guys want to come back and share your website. I'd like to share my website with you, and it's very simple. It's Karen Bonnet, BONNETT, coaching.com. So I would love to pass this on to Anne.
Okay, great. And thank you. I'm Anne Francesi. I'm a business and leadership coach, and I help my clients who are executives, senior level executives, forge a path to create these breakthroughs in their career as well as in their work. And we do that in a number of ways. And it's a journey to whenever you might feel stuck, then you have the ability to kind of move forward and select where you want to go. But what we're doing here today is discussing the disciplines which are pertinent to the ability to make certain decisions. And this is our third module, and we started off with awareness as number one, and then we moved into acceptance, and now we're working on conscious choice. And these disciplines are actually beliefs, they're foundations that help form a philosophy of the life that we want to lead and help us into this next movement or particular discipline of conscious choice. So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. And who would like to lead us off in a discussion?
So conscious choice, and I love before we hop into conscious choice, Karen shared her website with you, and I'd say we'll share all our websites in the show notes down below.
Great.
That you guys, anybody that wants to explore us further or reach out to us further, we'd love to hear from you, get your feedback on what we talk about and any of your thoughts as we go through this. So I love conscious choice. It's making choices in the moment, but it's beyond that. And I love the quote by Albert Einstein. You see the head shaking here. No problem can be solved from the same level of thinking that created it.
So I think it's important to note how awareness ties into that too, as well as the acceptance. And that may bring us the ability to move into what we really want to talk about today with that conscious choice. So you can't know what you don't know, right? And so we explored in our first session how the importance of awareness just is the gift. That's the first part of building your level of consciousness altogether. So the more you can build your awareness muscle, you then build the understanding of what you can control and what you can't control in acceptance. And that leads you to where we are in this place of conscious choice. And so when you realize, most people don't even realize that they have a conscious choice. So I think let's start with that first in how traditionally, historically, as human minds work, we oftentimes get so stuck that we don't see that we have a choice. And that's where we get that's where I think our limiting beliefs and our gremlin minds, and we make assumptions and interpretations that are not accurate because we don't know that we have a choice to think otherwise. Our mindset is stuck, right?
Yeah, we kind of go to the past, maybe make it out of fear, or fear of what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I think that a good way of where you were going, Karen, with this is that accepting. I mean, when we started with awareness,
Mm-hmm.
we are being aware of what is right now, what it is, and then we're coming into accepting what that is,
Mm-hmm.
trying to accept that unconditionally or without judgment. Whatever is happening right now is happening. It is what it is. So with conscious choice, and we needed the two. We needed to be aware of what is happening next, accepting what has happened. And then at that point in time, we can actually look back and see what was, all right, as long as we know what is. And then that allows us to make these decisions to impact what will be. So it's really being grounded in this awareness and being grounded in acceptance, so that the conscious choice is allowing us to pull those things together. And now the conscious being the key word, right? As having the awareness and the accepting of it. So conscious being that key word, we can make a lot of choices, but a conscious choice means that we're having that choice in that moment, like you're saying. And having the choice in the moment sometimes even allows us like to move away from the fear, but allowing us to try. If we make a conscious choice to do something, maybe to take some risk, we've made a choice to take a little risk. So if we were a sports player and we want to hit a golf ball and we wanted to try something a new way, we can consciously make that decision that we want to take the risk to make that work. And so that is the beauty, I think, of conscious choice, is that it's the freedom to make that decision. And whatever will happen will be, but we made a decision to try something or do something. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I heard in that too, and I've heard it twice now with Karen as well, is that conscious choice can be based on a fear-based or purpose-based. And so when we stick in fear, we're putting our energy based on what we may interpret or assume what others may think. And so our actions may be based upon our assumptions of what other people are thinking. So I'm going to go to a family gathering, and I'm going because I'm afraid they're going to be mad at me because I don't show up, or because I'm going to do what I want to do. So it's based on fear. And you're really not making a healthy conscious choice because it's fear-based. But when you make it on purpose, and you know that is based on what you value, what's important to you, and what matters most, and you can articulate that, then you've made a conscious choice that will help move you forward in a better level of energy, in more of that anabolic, happier energy, as opposed to being down in the catabolic energy based on fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so if, just like Anne was saying, and we've all been saying though, it's based on that awareness that's going on. I am doing this. And then accept that, okay, I made this choice. I accept this. And then now I have a opportunity to make a choice based upon conscious awareness where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and I would say without judgment, making that choice without judgment opens the door to freedom, because we don't want to focus on what the outcome is. We're just focusing on, hey, now that I see what I see and I'm accepting what I see, then I'm going to choose this. And then we make that choice and we go try. And we go. We take an action. And then we can repeat the cycle.
And I think it's sometimes to the mindset that we choose, because right now we are in a pandemic, COVID-19, and we're all in different states that have different requirements or not requirements, experiencing different things. So right now we have to wear masks where I am to go grocery shopping, to go anywhere internal. We have to have masks on, 6 feet apart, social gatherings, and things are starting to open up, but there's also a lot of fear out there. So if we're going to make a conscious choice, we can consciously choose when we go grocery shopping, for example, when the mindset we want to have around wearing that mask. Is it going to be out of fear or the purpose, a purpose behind it of protecting ourselves, protecting others, whatever that is, but really checking into where we are and where our energy is. So we can consciously choose how we show up in this pandemic, basically.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of go back to something you had said, Karen, and then this kind of takes where you're going back to the whole fear here. And the interesting thing, and this is a curious question that came up, was, are we unconsciously choosing when we're more in fear? When those are fear-based decisions that we're, when we're making decisions, it's almost as if the fear is kind of taking over and we're somewhat unconscious, right? And so we do things more habitual, or we do things in our conditioned mindsets to believe that this is the right thing to do because we're judging it, right? So what is that considered maybe an unconscious choice?
I would think so, because I believe, and I know that I've experienced that, is sometimes many of my decisions I've made is because I was raised that way. Is based on, at my younger age, family values, what was important. So like, it would have been based on my mom's fear of staring at somebody, looking at them. Now, I could be looking at somebody based on my curiosity of what are they all about? What's their story? Or I could be looking at somebody based upon, I'm staring at them, I'm judging them, and don't look at anybody. And so it created that fear base of me not looking or connecting with people. But then as I've grown and I've become more aware of that, and I've opened myself up, which is important to me, which is that moment of connection, and that I find myself when I'm out there on the trails, I see someone in front of me and I run up harder to catch them because I want to know their story. And so my conscious choice is to do that instead of being back to where I was unconscious based upon what I learned as a youngster. And so I think that is, a lot of our actions can be very much unconscious because they're more of a habit that's formed in our brains.
Yeah.
Right. Our learned behavior, just going back to, which goes back to, how we're showing up energetically as well, right? So that learned behavior, those beliefs that we pulled from either teachers or parents or whomever, and yet knowing that we can shift those. I mean, when things change, we have the ability to shift how we want to connect with people, how we want to see things, like you said. If we want to see that that's a connection, making eye contact is a connection with others versus pushing someone off or fear from that.
Down or,
Right? So we have that goes, that's exactly going into conscious choice, but we had to be aware of it to see, because our awareness, if we go back to the awareness piece, we see things based on the filter, the lens in which we view. And we view those things based on the experiences that we have and the story that plays in our mind. And then we get to decide if that story, how true that story is to us at whatever moment in time, or that type of thing. Like our parents, we hold our parents on a pedestal, at least I did. You put your parents up here on this pedestal, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, when did that glass break, right? And the same occurs, when they're looking at us. We're simply people But our children have looked up to us to a certain amount of time, and then they need to forge on their own and independence, and then you get that type of thing. But we can switching our beliefs, based on experiences that we have and things that are going on. It's something that we're allowed to do. It's not something that we just can't do. But how we approach it and which ones will work better for us. Some will work better than others, right? Certain things will work in our favor more than others.
But so I love that you brought up fear, because I think that brought up some of my own experiences with trauma, like getting hit by a car on my bike. It took me a while to get back on my bike.
Mm-hmm.
You can say that was fear.
Yeah.
Definite fear that kept me from getting on the bike. Even jobs, career choices. Are you making those from conscious, fear, or from that purpose place?
Mm-hmm.
And where's that coming from?
Yeah.
Even relationships.
Oh, for sure.
How we show up in relationships, and how fear-based is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everything.
Especially now, especially within the pandemic. People are now all at home, all the time with their spouses, all the time with their children. And the few people I've talked to is like they're at wits' ends with their kids because they're not teachers. They're the parents. And, so a lot of people's reactions too are based on fear. And we have the opportunity today to become more aware of where we are in life and the changes in our life. And then again, acceptance. And then now today, make that conscious choice based away from fear and make it on purpose of how can we look at that situation and how can I create that win-win in my life, in your life together.
Mm-hmm.
And almost how can we take what's going on now and make the world, whatever part we have an impact on, a better place? And how can we consciously choose to learn from what's going on right now, bringing it forward, not out of fear, but out of purpose of making this world a better place for all.
Mm-hmm.
So we speak out here, not just for us to chat. We speak out here to touch your people's hearts, and that maybe we can step forward together to make that change. And contacting us to, if you have any concerns, questions, or anything, contacting us is your best ticket to make that one difference in our lives.
Well, and especially right now, because of when you talk about the fear or what the unknown, all of this is unknown, right? We're just living in the unknown right now. But we can impact, we can make purposeful decisions to make those purposeful changes. So if there is something that someone's aspired to do and you haven't had a chance to do it, there's the opportunity in a lot of things. So now seeing that opportunity, what have you put on hold that you might want to bring forward? There's so much in this online learning, the things that we're doing here, work, people are working at home now. How is that different for someone? And how have you adapted? And if you haven't adapted yet, how can you adapt better? There's so many different things that can happen instead of just being in it and being at the effect of it, but making that conscious choice to move into some type of action in some manner. So
Action. Yeah. Going back to that, you had said from, how you're aware,
mm-hmm.
you accept, and now what are you going to do about that information, right? And so action is the key to success, really, right? And so I guess
Journey to success.
that's the key, being able to take the action. And so I guess I keep coming back to this whole part of what keeps us limited. Why is there such inaction? Where do we feel stuck when we don't know that we have a choice? And how do we help them shift from feeling stuck to seeing that they have a choice. How do we help them?
Energy is a great way.
Yeah.
Looking at our levels of energy, and that's where I give the energy assessments, because it's about us. It's about each individual and where am I resonating. And in my course that I'm offering that starts today, I have 6 people that I gave energy assessments to. And it's amazing how many people today are in level 1 and 2. That catabolic energy, they're scared. And they're acting out in anger and frustration. And it's showing up when they actually in their profiles can sit at that level 5, the win-win, and the compassion in level 4. But it's our energy. And knowing we have that ability to make that choice.
Yeah, it's almost like we should really demonstrate and depict that levels of energy in order for, it's almost like before we can keep going with the disciplines, we might want to introduce those 7 levels.
Yeah, I like that, because we are, so we are all energy, and we are always at choice. And how much do you believe that you always have a choice?
Right. And you don't know what choice looks like until you actually see that would be a shift from one level to another.
Right.
Tangibly.
And when we understand those levels, we can make that choice to make that shift.
Exactly. Tangible choice.
Because you already learned in our video 1 about awareness. And so, and those trigger points, those fears, those level 2 energy is unconscious reactions to situations. And where we learn through our awareness and this process of acceptance and conscious choice, that now we can, instead of reacting, we can respond based upon our own knowledge. And it's learning. It's a learning about ourselves, being willing to take the moment to learn about me.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at those energy levels, and kind of just I don't think that we hit upon that, and I love the idea of going about that in more detail. We really, it's a systemized approach to help us understand our feelings and how those feelings can work better for us in certain circumstances, work differently in different circumstances. So it's so there's a tier of those, and we can certainly speak to them, because it is how we feel about something will either keep us playing small or allow us to play big. And somewhere in between, we need all of them at certain moments. And
so let's go through them real quick. Let's just go through them. Start with level 1, Anne, and then we'll go around, and then just tell about the thought and the emotion, the feeling, the core thought.
Yeah, so we have 7 levels to this conscious energy, this conscious awareness, right? And so level 1 is that's where we might feel ashamed or come from fear. We consider it a low level of energy. And it's where you may be at the effect of feeling like a victim of a circumstance or a situation, and therefore you're lethargic. You actually are paralyzed to take any type of action. And it is when you are at this level. I mean, it's okay that we might when we talk about level 1, when we're in a stressful situation, we usually react in either a level 1, taking it personally and hitting me into that victim type of approach, or a level 2, which we'll talk about, which is more out of anger and frustration. But at level 1, if we're paralyzed, we could be paralyzed for the moment, because we've learned in life how to shift out of that. And so it's the awareness of understanding how to come from which level you are in, so that you could make a shift either up or down, plus or minus, because sometimes we need to, what we call or say, have a pity party. We need to sit and soak in on that because it hurt. The pain was real, it hurt, and I want to feel that way for a little bit, but we don't want to stay there, for a pronounced period of time. That actually, over a period of time, turns into deeper mental illness, anxiety. You can't make the shift out. So that's what level 1.
So that level sounds like the core thought would be, I lose. Does that sound accurate?
Mm-hmm. Right. So the stories that we tell in our head, and yeah, that type of thing. So who wants to hit level 2?
I can hit level 2.
Okay.
So level 2 energy is another catabolic level of energy, and as level 1 is as well. And the core thought here is conflict. And the emotion attached to that is going to be anger. So from level 1, ensure that you sit as a victim and apathy. But in level 2, we're acting it out. And so we're expressing our anger, expressing our fear, expressing our frustration. And the action may result in being real defiant in our approach. And so another thing these level of energies offer us is, though none of these levels are bad or good, but there's advantages and disadvantages in all of them. And so some of the energy that's advantage in level 2 energy is that you can get a lot done in a short period of time. You have this blasting energy. And you could motivate others, but not necessarily in a animalic win-win situation. And you can be so hyper-focused, you can just like run right people over. But then the level 2 disadvantage is that you're not really going to motivate people. It's not going to be really a win-win that everybody gets together and wants to work with you. You're creating fear that people work with you. And your accomplishments are by force and not necessarily by power. You're not a great person to be around because you're doing it by force and you're doing it by fear. And so a long-term basis of this is it eventually will break down on you. You're going to lose employees. You're going to lose friends. You're going to lose in the long run. So
it sounds like the core thought there is you lose, meaning everyone else is losing, right?
Exactly.
And it becomes exhausting for sure.
Oh, sure. Both of these levels are they're just draining. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're a combination of all 7 at the same time. So there's 7 levels. We are a combination of all 7 at the same time. They all have advantages, like Karen said. They all have disadvantages. Level 1 and 2 are catabolic. So they're draining, they're exhausting. We can go there for a little bit, but when we stay there for a long time, that's when it can start to cause internal issues within our physical body also. So the first anabolic, which anabolic is expansion, growth, more abundant energy, is level 3 energy. And the core thought on that is responsibility. So we're starting to release the catabolic energy and move into more anabolic action, which feels better. The core emotion is forgiveness. And the action or result is cooperation. And what I like to look at level 3 is I win. So I've got a goal and I'm going to go for it. And you all might be going for a goal also. And I'm going to get mine and secure mine first. And then I may go back and help you. And I don't mind if you get your goal. In fact, I'm happy if you do. So it's no longer the I win, you lose. It's the I win. If you win, great. But I'm definitely getting my goal. So a lot of it's mental up in the head because you're thinking this is my goal and I'm going for it. And I'm going to get there, hell or high water. And I hope you do too, but I'm definitely there.
It's interesting that level 3 has it's almost like it teeters among the catabolic and anabolic pendulum there too, because oftentimes when I see level 3, I see you're keeping yourself out of 1 and 2, mentally coping and rationalizing. However, you're also just keeping yourself only in good enough. So it's like you're not able to get to those higher levels when you're stuck in level 3, but you're happy that you're keeping yourself out of 1 and 2.
Yeah, you're tolerating a lot.
Tolerating.
So a lot of people go to 3 because they don't like how 1 and 2 feel.
Right. It's bad. It hurts.
It's icky, or they got fed beliefs when they were younger that it's not good to have those 1 or 2 feelings. So let's just ignore them, and then they internalize them, but they don't ever address them. So they're still there. And then they go up to 3 to avoid having to deal with 1 or 2. So that's, I think, so they tolerate a lot just so that they don't have to feel those lower levels of energy.
And then the whole idea around the good enough mentality is that they really aren't able to shift their minds to these other higher levels of more anabolic that we're going to talk about now. So level 4 is this where it's much more anabolic energy. The idea here is that you win. So this is the core belief, and the thoughts here are of compassion and concern and service. And what I love about level 4 is, interestingly, it doesn't have to be this concern, compassion, and service to others. It can be about to yourself. It can be to a specific thing. So I like to use the example of when your office is a mess and you know you have to go in and clean it, but you're avoiding it. What would it look like if you shifted your mind and said how much I love my space and I look forward to cleaning it? So giving it that little bit of love and compassion is the same thing. Is you'll start to see, other levels of energy coming into play once you're able to give that little space some love and compassion that it deserves. Same thing with people. Same thing, most importantly with ourselves. And the interesting part here about level 4 is the more you can master unconditional love, the less likely you will fall back down into those other spaces. Because if you think about the mom and how all of us here, obviously all of us are moms, there's a lot of level 4 in us as a mom. But the more judgment that we have when we're giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, like, right? We find ourselves back down in those lower levels of energy because we aren't, we're expecting, we're judging. They're not showing up the way we want them to. We have very high expectations of how we think they should show up, how we want to be received when we're giving. So level 4 is a great space, especially here, to know what is it that you're looking to be filled when you're willing to give? Is it because you want to be feeling a sense of belonging? Is that why we're compassionate? Is it because we're the serial fixer in needing to make sure everybody's perfect, projecting our own expectations? Or is it truly a place of being able to just be that unconditional love, acceptance of exactly yourself and others the way they are, your office space, the way it may be a mess, and just still give it the love and attention unconditionally without any need for anything to receive back? So then the more we're able to give that unconditional love, the more we're able to start to see level 5 opportunity. So take it away.
All right. I'll go with the level 5, because now that you've had that compassion, when you can feel the compassion, right? And that is a place where then you can shift. Usually we can shift plus or minus a level. We don't really shift multiple levels. So we need to be able to feed into and understand and be aware of what the levels are. So when we came from compassion, now we can move into level 5 is what I call that ability, the win-win. It's where teamwork really thrives in that situation. It's where reconciliation can happen. And that's kind of the thought where we can work together and we can find the opportunity in whatever it is that we're looking for. And we may have the feeling on that is like peace, and it exerts acceptance. I mean, there's acceptance that comes with allowing other people to actually put in their work, their value, right? Or while they're learning something, we're all working as a unit. We're going to win-win together. I'm going to be in this with you, and the goal is that we all win together. Not that I just win or you just win, but we're going to win. We're going to win together. So finding that opportunity, making lemonade out of lemons. This is where that thought process lies. Anyone want to add on to level 5?
Great job, Anne.
Okay. All right, level 5.
Let's step up the ladder to level 6.
Woohoo!
This is when our core thought is synthesis. We connect. We're at a level of just joy and wisdom. This is a place where your intuition, your creativity, your genius comes alive. You become a visionary, and you're brilliant. Shows up in your workplace. It shows up in your life. You wake up every morning just thinking joyful and excited to be alive. Mm-hmm. This comes from your heart. It comes from what's deep inside of you, what you value the most, and you live by those values. You tap into that level 4 energy too, with being so empathetic, connecting with people really well. And you're connecting without judgment, where you make that conscious choice to just to be your being, just to be.
See, what I love about level 6 is to think of it as the orchestra conductor, and you have all the other areas of the orchestra, and now instead of just being practice, 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 they're all coming together in unison, that synchronicity that you're talking about. So here they come, and then there is this brilliant music that's all blending and it's all flowing. And there are times in our life, if we really sit and think of, when did just things go right? When was a time when everything just, wow, there were no hiccups? That is level 6.
You're in that flow.
You're in the flow.
Right? You're in the flow.
As a runner. Right?
And you don't have the idea of time. Time is lost. Mm-hmm. It's just happening, coming alive.
So the thing here that I heard, beautiful orchestra, and I love the visual, and so level 6 to me, which is interesting because while it's absolutely flow, the no judgment piece is the critical part of this, because even when there isn't things going what we might refer to as great, there's still a beauty in nature to it and purpose. And that to me is the part of level 6 that's so critical, is that everything is always good. There's always, and good really isn't the right word, but it's that we always win.
Yeah, we always win.
There's a purpose to everything, whether it's viewed as challenging or difficult or tragic, there's still a gift in it. Mm-hmm. And being able to experience from that perspective, mm-hmm. I love how the orchestra, and you're the conductor, you get to choose where you need to point at whatever given time to crescendo that whatever other level of energy might be needing to be experienced at that point in time, and be okay with that without judgment of it. Because you're right, there are times when we need to be in that level 1 space. There are times when level 2 is critical for us to move forward. Sometimes when we're in those spaces for too long, it's really very helpful to get to level 3 and just be able to cope and rationalize. And it's okay. Human experience is tragic in many, many instances. And all of these levels, the more we can conceptualize and observe them at the same time, we have the ability to move without them having to move us. We can move within them. So that brings to this beautiful level 7, Nancy.
Level 7, and that's part of what we're talking about. This is that level of mastery. Now, we don't hang out up there, but we can tap into it. And it's a brilliant level. It is complete non-judgment and absolute passion. It's when you get those divine downloads, you're able to create something from nothing, but you have no attachment to it. It simply is what it is. And what's brilliant about this level, this is part of why we're sharing these disciplines, because as we grow in each of these disciplines, we can get to this level 7 where we can consciously choose which level we want to hang out in.
Mm-hmm.
And I often share this. It's like if I'm at this level of consciousness that I can consciously choose to be at level 1, I can consciously choose that. And there's no fear, there's no victim, but I'm going to be in grief today. So when my cat died, I often share this. That was a conscious choice to clear my calendar and to really be present with that loss.
And interestingly, it wasn't as heavy because you were still observing yourself there instead of actually being there.
Yeah, I still was sad, but I wasn't a victim.
Right.
I was sad, but I was observing my sadness. So level 7 is just, it's really truly being fully present in that specific moment, not judging the moment, but being fully there.
Yeah.
And just being alive is the reward, basically. There's no right or wrong. It just is. So it's not winning or losing. There is no game. It just is what it is.
So
The minute that
being
you
in the
say-
moment. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Well, being in the moment when your cat died.
Yeah.
We have emotions, and you honored your emotions, and that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. But and having the awareness to have that, and that's the thing of what's so beautiful about these energy levels is none of them are good or bad, and they all serve a purpose in us being a human being. And to be that human being, we have emotions, and let's honor that.
And they're so powerful. Our emotions are part of our physiological body sending messages. And many of us grew up judging these emotions. And they're sending us important information. And that's where we can get curious about the emotions the feelings we're feeling and the emotions we're having, and starting to build that vocabulary and wisdom within us is so powerful.
And that leads us to how the awareness of that and acceptance of the situation can bring us to conscious choice. Without having all of these pieces and understanding conscious choice, we can't conceptualize how to make a conscious choice. To teach anyone how to realize, well, you have a choice. Well, no one knows that they have a choice, right? You don't know that you have a choice until you stop and realize, well, what are my choices? And that's really where you get to that level 5 space of saying, what are my choices, right? Mm-hmm. But you can't do that without giving yourself a little bit of love and compassion to say, okay, I didn't feel great about all that, or I'm really upset with that person, or whatever it might be that you're telling yourself, the story that you're attached to. Mm-hmm. To make a different choice, there is no other choice unless you stop and think, what are the other choices, right?
But that's when what you're talking about, I look at it, and once I first learned these emotions and the interplay and how they're directed, it actually, just what you said, I look at it as a strategic way of being able to make a decision. Yeah. So now I'm more aware, and based on that awareness of where I might want to go and play, right, take on an opportunity, then I'm going to say, hey, no, fear, you sit over here while I go play over here, because I can make that choice to go and do that without judgment. I don't care what the outcome is going to be. I want to see what it might be like and just play in that space, and it might work for me and it might not.
Yeah, see your place, and you decide your rules and where you want to play.
Right. So, And then that's what we'll talk about next week is, I think it's trusting the process.
In the process.
Right? And trusting the process. Oh my goodness. That's like even better than conscious choice, because that's where you're really playing. so it's a lot of fun. Anyway.
Yeah, and I add too that we are all core energy coaches, and we're all certified to give that wonderful assessment that was mentioned, the Energy Leadership Index Assessment, which is incredibly powerful. I did a debrief this morning, but it actually gives you insight into where your energy is, those 7 levels we just shared with you, where your energy is normally, and then what happens under stress. I go through a debrief, we take a deeper dive into what your energetic profile is.
Yeah.
Right. And it's subjective, so it's not personality. We can change it once we become more aware of what's going on. So it's, yeah.
And we do, yeah, we label it as like an attitudinal assessment, because really these feelings and how we interact with those, it's more about our attitude towards things. And so what's nice is that it's a moving target. So where you are today and how your view and perception of things and the way they are, as you understand these levels, your views will shift. And as you work on that and work on yourself in that manner, then when you shift and you shift upwards, those choices open up. So it's kind of like I call it a funnel, and using that funnel, level 1 and 2 being down here and moving upwards. While we play in all those areas, the wider the funnel is, the wider the perspective is. So it's really, it's a great assessment for those that are on self-awareness, or they feel that they're running on that hamster wheel and they can't get off and they're making the same choices over and over. Then that's why having a little more awareness of this will help you open up and get off that wheel a little bit. So it's fun.
And see that you have conscious choice.
Right.
Right?
You are a conscious choice to do what's next. Right?
Yes, good.
It was great to be with everybody today.
Great to be with everybody today.
Yeah.
Thank you guys out there for watching us, and please post your comments. And if you have any questions, one of us will get back to you. But thanks so much.
Definitely. Thank you all.
Okay. Until next week.